From selling alarms to selling homes.
I was the #1 ADT sales rep in America out of 100,000 reps. I knocked on more doors than I'm sure anybody, in places others wouldn't. Half my sales the first year came from leads I generated on Craigslist for free. And I realized people will more happily pay for things they want to get what they need. If I want to learn from somebody or get value from somebody, I need to first deliver value. All of a sudden, I'm in the rooms with the top real estate agents in America, not because I was top agent yet, but because I was thirsty to learn. Figured out all the best lead generation strategies, and it became enormous for me. One of them was,
at one point, you decided you were going to get your real estate license. You wanted to start selling homes. You want to become a CEO one day or be an entrepreneur. You need to know how to sell, and there's no better way than getting in front of people. Tell us about that experience, that you had to knock on so many doors to get a sale and you weren't afraid of rejection.
So it's funny, Charlie, you asked that question. One of my friends is a Latter-day Saint member, Mormon, and it's very common for the kids at 18, 19 years old, they go out and they work in door-to-door sales jobs in the summer. So his son made $150,000 over the summer selling pest control.
Wow.
So I just got to have this great run down memory lane. And I said this to him, I was like, there's not many people knocking on doors, let's make it easier. And he said in a lot of the areas they knock, they're heavily knocked, which surprised me. But, his success isn't the norm. He was, a really high performer. One of the things we talked about, I said, well, tell me, how do you deal with gated communities? He goes, yeah, I was the only person who would go knock on doors in gated communities that say no soliciting. And I said, that's exactly what I would do, because nobody knocks in those neighborhoods. You get thrown out by the local patrol every now and then, sure you will, but nobody else is going to do so. He also said, I'm the only person who would go knock on the houses of the wealthiest people. Everybody else was nervous to go knock on the doors of the big houses. He said, that's where I got the best clients. And I felt the best selling to them because they could afford it and they weren't going to cancel, right? So I started my career. I was a college student at Drexel University at the time, studying finance and accounting, and I waited tables on the weekends. A gentleman kept coming into my restaurant, Texas Roadhouse, convinced me to come sell alarm systems for ADT security, knocking on doors. And his sales pitch to me was, if you come work for me, you'll make $2,000 a week selling alarm systems. Remember, this is 21 years ago. I'm 20 years old. And that sounded like really good, right? The college student. And my first paycheck was $5,280. I made $7,000 to $10,000 every 2 weeks after that. What my job was to knock on doors of residential houses. My success was I knocked on a lot of doors. I figured out my math was 1 in every 51 doors I sold an alarm system to. So I just had to do the math. And what was really cool, I found out afterwards, like months, if not years afterwards, that I was the only person he had ever had work for him make $1,000 a week, let alone 2 or 3 or 4,000. I was the #1 ADT sales rep in America out of 100,000 reps. He never told me that I was doing so great, which was great because I wasn't getting fool of myself.
And what were you doing different? Like, if you look back and reversed engineered what you did versus the other nearly 100,000 reps, what was it?
Yeah, a few things. One, I knocked on more doors than I'm sure anybody. In the beginning, I'm sure I wasn't particularly good. I just knocked on a lot of doors. 2, I would go and knock on doors in places others wouldn't, gated communities and such. I didn't have fear of what the local patrol guy in a subdivision telling me to leave. Okay, right? And then I paid attention, listened to people. So I would learn tricks to things, right? To how to have better success, right? I mastered knocking on a door, having a big smile on my face, giving them my little pitch, and then putting my head down, kind of moving my feet like I'm about to charge in like a bull, and just moving ahead without them being able to tell me no. And I would just move right in. And then once I was in the house, I would have a better chance of a sale if I got in the door, right? If they didn't have time, which of course is often, I'd start off and I'd say, all right, well, I'll call you to follow up. Your phone number is 484, which is the regular area code in the area. And just by starting to give me the phone number, they would more likely give me the rest of it, right? I'd learned every time I got a sale, I would never leave their house without them calling somebody they knew and giving me a referral. And usually I would leave their house and drive right to a referral's house and sell another alarm system that same night. I figured out that most people felt they needed an alarm system, but didn't really want one. Nobody wants one, right? And I realized people will more happily pay for things they want to get what they need. So I started carrying around a Nintendo Wii and an iPod. I created shirts that said I was in the ADT special sales or something like that department. And I would knock on the doors and say, hey, I'm in the ADT special sales department. We're doing special giving away free iPod or Nintendo Wii if you buy an alarm system today. I only have one of each left. So only the next two people who purchase will get this great incentive.
Right.
And people would buy a $2,000 contract to get a $200 item today, especially if the kids saw that Nintendo Wii. So, I was making $400 or $500 commission per sale. And so I could pay the $150 for the item to double or triple the speed of my sales, right? So little things like that. My boss taught me, does the mailman deliver your mail when it's raining and when it's snowing? I said, yeah. I said, so why can't you, right? So I knocked on doors when it was snowing and it was raining, right? Guess what? People let you in their house when it's raining and snowing much easier because they feel bad for you. So these are all, little things you learn.
I read the book by C.L. Deeney, who's like the most quoted psychiatrist on sales. And he said, who do you let in your home? Well, people you trust.
One little things is people you trust, like you said. So I'm knocking on doors. I'm a 20-year-old kid, right? Don't look like I know anything. And just wearing a ADT t-shirt. So I created badges, right? I just made up my own badge with a laminated ID, and people trust you more. Even though I made my own ID, when you have a laminated ID, people trust you more to let you in your house, right? Another thing I realized all of a sudden was when people buy an alarm system, a lot of insurance policies give you a discount off your homeowner's insurance policy. So one of the added values I would do was I'd ask them for their insurance card, tell them I'll make sure to get their discount. That'll offset a lot of their cost. Then I would go meet the insurance agent directly and ask them for referrals, who else would benefit from a discount. And that started getting me a lot of referrals, right? Finding people of influence, right? Just all these basic things that in business, are natural to us, but I learned kind of just on the ground, like how do I get more clients? Who could be of influence to bring me clients? So those were a couple other fun ones.
From selling alarms to selling homes. Tell us about the time that you went out to California to meet like a top guy to find out what they were doing and how you ended up getting that person to talk to you, and then what transpired after that.
So I was in Keller Williams Real Estate when I got started. And in Keller Williams Real Estate, they have a system. At the time, they had something called Crystal Reports, which is like an intranet. And you could see how much money every real estate agent in America in Keller Williams was earning, right? And which is important because real estate agents have a tendency to tell you their best month they ever had, multiply it by 12 for 12 months of the year. And that's how many homes they tell you they sell a year, right? They tend to exaggerate.
But you had a goal.
Yeah.
You had a goal.
Yeah, to be
Right.
number one in the year. And I got laughed out of the office of the title was team leader when I told him that. I mean, he laughed me out. I mean, like belly laugh, hysterical laugh, like he heard the funniest thing he ever heard in his life when I said I want to be the top agent out of 150 agents in a year. I could see how much money every Keller Williams agent made in the whole country, 100,000 agents, right? So I could really look at them, and then I'd go research them and look at their website and what are they doing and yada, yada. But I figured out about the year I was getting going, Craigslist became a big thing. And I learned how to spam Craigslist to get leads for free by posting houses on Craigslist. A lot of my sales, probably half my sales the first year, came from leads I generated on Craigslist for free. So my idea was, if I want to learn from somebody or get value from somebody, I need to first deliver value, right? Kind of the law of reciprocity, right? And so what I started doing was calling the top real estate agents in America, including the number one Keller Williams agent in the country who was in Keller Williams. And I told them, hey, I'd like to come and see you and show you how you can sell 100 homes a year for free on Craigslist. So they all wanted to meet with me. I'd come out there. They'd usually put me in touch with their marketing person. I would show them how to do it. And then the deal was you'd give me an hour of time. I would come out with 3 pages of questions pre-written, right? What's your biggest source of lead generation, right? How do you compensate your real estate agents, right? Yeah, what is your commission percentage? How do you structure this, right? A million questions I had, right? Older people, when they see somebody actually driven and motivated who they believe is going to do something with the information they give them and the time they spend, they will pour value into you. And that's what I found, is that they poured value into me. Then they started inviting me to different groups they were part of, master classes and mastermind groups. And all of a sudden I'm in the rooms with the top real estate agents in America, not because I was the top agent yet, but because I was thirsty to learn and I was willing to share and I was doing innovative things. And that's what I found all through life. Anytime I go into a new business line or we want to do something different, I find whoever's doing it really well and I ask them for help, right? And people will gladly help if they believe that you're going to be a good use of their time. And it doesn't mean they want something in return, but they believe that they're going to actually be able to add value into your life.
And what were the greatest lessons that you learned that you went back to Pennsylvania to your little office and actually started to do? What were the results like a year later?
So a lot of it in the beginning, real estate sales is big on lead generation. And so I figured out all the best lead generation strategies. And one of them example was radio. So I started realizing that a lot of the top real estate agents in America were using radio marketing, which even 20 years ago seemed like an old idea, like didn't seem like that could really work. Who listens to the radio? Who's going to call a realtor off the radio? So I did it. I followed methodology, got in touch with a radio guy who kind of was an expert in doing this. And it became enormous for me. And then, so I had the idea, I used a local morning talk radio host. I still do radio to this day for our capital raising business. Started conservative talk radio, morning personality endorsing.
What were they saying? Just give the listeners.
Have you ever struggled to sell your home? Did you ever wish there was a way for your home to be sold guaranteed? Well, there is. I'm joined with Don Wenner, owner of DLP Realty, who guarantees to sell your home in 34 days or he'll buy it. I know that sounds too good to be true. Don, how does this work, right? And then a call to action to call me, right? That's an example of an ad. Or then a lot of times we did the immediate buyout program. Do you wish you didn't have to go through the challenge, the hassle of listing your home, dealing with showing? Don't you wish there was a way you could just sell your home as is, cash, no showings, no risk, sell on your timetable? Well, there is. You can call Don Wenner, #1 real estate agent here in the state of Pennsylvania, who will buy your home, no questions asked, close when you want. That was the kind of ads, right? And so after I got my morning personality to endorse me and realized it worked, this was the days when Glenn Beck was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And Sean Hannity was a huge deal. And so it was the morning personality, then it was like Glenn Beck, then it was Sean Hannity on the radio. So I got Glenn Beck to endorse me, and I got Sean Hannity to endorse me, and I got Glenn Beck to be the #1 real estate agent in America. $250 a month is what I paid Glenn Beck for his endorsement. I could use in all my marketing, and $500 for Sean Hannity. Then I got Barbara Corcoran too. And I did TV commercials with Barbara Corcoran for years.
And were you talking to them or their producers or their marketing people?
Initially, they're people, and then I got to them. I explained what I did, and I explained there's a top real estate agent in every market across the country, and I could guarantee them 100 agents to pay him $250 a month. And that's what I did. And you only have to record the spots one time. He would record his part of the commercial, and then the agent would record their part. He would have to take him 5 minutes, right? And he was making a couple $100,000 a month all of a sudden. And then he decided he was going to do a referral model, and he started making 25% of all the commissions. Was making millions of dollars a year in commissions. So radio was what came out of those kind of things, and then television commercials. And then I really learned how to do online digital marketing really well before Zillow kind of owned the home search market. And I ended up growing a company that I ended up serving 200 of the top 250 agents in the world, doing their marketing for them then, after I figured out how to do all that years and years ago. But yeah, so those were some of the things we learned.
DLP, Dream, Live, Prosper. Where did that come from? And how do you integrate that into everything you do?
So Dream, Live, Prosper, which is what DLP stands for. It's kind of interesting how it came to be. The week that I was forming the company brand, when I was leaving Keller Williams and launching my own platform, I really just spent a weekend brainstorming through what I wanted the company to be and what I wanted it to do and what I wanted it to mean. And it really came through hours and hours and hours of whiteboarding with a few of my employees, and just stuck. And originally I was playing with my initials and such, but yeah, I just came up with Dream, Live, Prosper as kind of what the meaning, what we thought success would be in our business. And many hours of brainstorming, it turned out to be one of the best decisions we made, as it's guided so much of how we've thought about our role, and a big part of the kind of culture we've developed over the years.